What's up, Guardians? Welcome back, and welcome to those new. I'm R32_Epiphany, and I make Destiny 2 content for all Guardians. So in today's video, we will be covering what I think is the best Stasis Hunter build currently in Season 23, Season of the Wish. This build has definitely become one of my favorite builds to run on Hunter this season, and I have had a ton of fun using it, and I think you will too. I will also be going over the subclass, the armor mods, the fragments, the aspects, and lastly the variety of weapons that you could potentially use for this build. Also in the background gameplay, I am taking this build into an 1830 Legend Lost Sector, and I am currently 20 light under the current light level required for this Lost Sector. Also be sure to drop a like and a sub on this video, as it really helps this channel out a lot. I also have a Discord that will be linked down in the description below if you want to check it out and be a part of a growing community. So based on the thumbnail for this video, as you have already seen, our exotic choice for this build is going to be the exotic gauntlets Renewal Grasps, which have definitely been a top choice to run on a Stasis Hunter for quite some time now, ever since it was buffed. That is because of its exotic perk Depths of Duskfield, which states your Duskfield grenades have a much larger effect radius. Allies inside the Duskfield take reduced damage, and targets inside the area deal reduced damage. This perk is very useful for when you see yourself getting surrounded by enemies, and while standing inside Duskfield, it will grant you and your allies with a ×4 resistance buff, which can be very crucial when you are trying to stay alive or get out of a dicey situation. Next, we will be going over the subclass, fragments, and the aspects. So for our super, we will be running Silence and Squall, as it is currently the only super on Stasis we can choose right now, but the base super cooldown being at 7 minutes and 35 seconds is really nice. For our abilities, we are currently, for our dodge, we are going to be running Gambler's Dodge, which will refund our melees by using it near enemies. For our melee, we'll be using Withering Blade, which was recently buffed with the start of the season with increase in tracking. For our grenade, we'll be running Duskfield Grenade, which will create a field that slows and freezes targets that get trapped inside. So now we will be going over our aspects. So for our first aspect we are going to be using is Touch of Winter, which states your Glacier, Duskfield, and Cold Snap grenades have enhanced functionality. Seeing how we already are using Duskfield Grenade for this build, our main focus for this aspect is the Duskfield Grenade functionality, which states increases slow field size and creates a small stasis crystal on impact. For our second aspect we are going to be running is Grim Harvest, which states defeating frozen targets creates stasis shards. These stasis shards grant you melee energy when picked up by you or your allies. So now I'll go over the fragments for this build. So for our first fragment, we will be using Whisper of Bonds, which states defeating frozen targets generates an orb of power. This fragment was recently updated at the start of this season by removing the -10 discipline penalty, which definitely will help out our stats. For our second fragment, we will be using Whisper of Shards, which states shattering a stasis crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate. Shattering additional stasis crystals increases the duration of this benefit. Recently, at the start of this season, the +10 resilience stat was removed, which definitely could negatively impact our stats. Next we have, for our third fragment, we will be using Whisper of Fissures, which states increases the damage and size of the burst of stasis when you destroy a stasis crystal or a frozen target. For our fourth fragment, we will be using Whisper of Durance, which states slow that you apply to targets lasts longer. For those abilities that linger, their duration will also increase. So for our fifth and final fragment, we will be using Whisper of Conduction, which states nearby stasis shards track your position. This fragment is very good when you're trying to play from afar. Next, we are going to go over all the armor mods that you will need for this build. So on our helmet, we are going to be running Dynamo, which reduces our super cooldown when we use our class ability near targets. We're going to be running Hands-On, which gives us super energy on melee kills. And lastly, Harmonic Siphon, which will generate an orb when rapidly defeating targets with a stasis weapon. For our gauntlets, we are going to be running Firepower, which grenade final blows create orbs of power. Sadly, orb generation was reduced to 10 seconds now, with an update coming out next week. So with Firepower and Heavy Handed, you have on 3, it'll be 1 second. When you have on 2, it'll be 5 seconds. If you have 1 on, it'll be 10. This change to me is not very great. But anyways, let's continue. We'll be running Heavy Handed as well, like I just said. With the orb generation, with the change coming next week, it'll be something, I guess, else. I don't know. Let's continue. Grenade Kickstart will be what we'll run as well, which collecting the Orb of Power causes you to gain 1 temporary armor charge. For our leg mods, we'll be running Recuperation, which replenishes health each time you pick up an Orb of Power. And then we'll be running ×2 stacks on stacks, which states by picking up an Orb of Power grants an additional stack of armor charge. And for our class item, we'll be running Utility Kickstart, which collecting the Orb of Power causes you to gain 1 temporary armor charge. We'll be running Bomber, which reduces grenade cooldown when using your class ability. And lastly, we'll be running Reaper, which shortly after using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an Orb of Power. So next, we are going to get into the variety of weapons that you can use for this build. Some of these are my personal favorite, and some of them I think might just go well. So that's totally up to you what you want to use. But what I would suggest is Verglass Curve, Wicked Implement, Ager's Scepter for exotics, and then for legendary weapons, Forest Story, which comes from Festival of the Lost if you have it. If you don't, that's fine. There's other weapons you can choose. New Pacific Epitaph, which comes from Ghost of the Deep Dungeon. It's the primary or kinetic special weapon, grenade launcher. That's Stasis. And then this season's Trace Rifle of Penance, which is pretty good too. But it's all just kind of based around like what you want to run. Like I'd suggest a stasis weapon so it synergizes better. So that's totally up to you. I think Demolitionist is a very good perk to have for getting your grenade back. That is definitely, I'd highly suggest getting a roll of a weapon that you want for that. But all in all, that is pretty much the build. I hope you find it to be very enjoyable as much as I have using it and making it for you guys. I will have this build's dim link down in the description below, along with some other videos by me if you want to check them out. If you found this video to be helpful or useful in some way, please be sure to leave a like down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe. It's completely free and you would be helping this channel out a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one, Guardians.